Hey guys, welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys coming by the channel and spending some time with me. And guys, I have been wanting to do this video for a long time. I've been thinking about it for a long time, and I want to have a discussion, and it's related to fishing a little bit. Some of it's not, but it's really been on my mind, and that is I want to talk about the time when men were real men, that they're not anymore. And I don't mean this to be in any type of, machoistic, egotistical, misogynistic way. It's basically, I want to describe a time period that I'm talking about where men just did not slop through life. They were just better than we are right now. And I'm going to explain to you guys what I mean with that. And curious to get your guys' feedback on that and sort of like see how we got from there to where we are right now, because it hasn't been for the better. So we're going to dig into that in today's video. Also, guys, a couple quick things before we get started here. A big thank you up there to everybody that's taking time to hit that subscribe button here at Intuitive Angling, man. If you guys like the content and you want to do something to support the channel, just hit that subscribe button, become a channel member, become a Patreon member. Use those links I put in every video description. Those are really good ways to support the channel. As you guys know, YouTube has made it really tough on YouTube creators. They basically kicked us in the balls over the past year with the algorithm changes and the AI and all that type of stuff. So if you like the content of the channel, that's some ways that you can help it out. So really appreciate that. Okay, guys, I want to step back in time a little bit and explain to you guys what I mean. The time when men were men is when I was growing up as a little kid and being around my dad. And my dad's friends. And I'm going to explain this to you guys a little bit. This is what made me think about it the other day. We used to bowl in the league back at 4th Street Bowling Alley in Joplin, Missouri. Carl Richards' 4th Street Bowling Alley in Joplin. Carl Richard was a PBA pro. He was a very famous professional bowler, and he opened up a bowling alley in Joplin, Missouri. Super cool bowling alley, 16 lanes. Very, very old school. It's like it was full of atmosphere. It had wooden seats in it, and you had black and white pictures of bowlers all over the bowling alley. It had this bar in there that was like some type of a 1930s bar with bowlers, pictures of bowlers, black and white pictures of bowlers that had bowled there at the bowling alley over the years. It was just sort of a magical place. And my dad used to bowl in the league. I used to keep score for him. And then as I got older, I bowled on the same team with my dad. And back then, and this is just a little story that I'm going to get into the rest of the video. Back then, if you can picture this, it's like everybody that was at the bowling alley back then, there was a Monday night men's league. And picture this, it's a 5-man team, guys, right? So you got five dudes on a team. Everybody there had these really nice, they had bowling shirts that they were sponsored by local businesses, like, it could be a trucking company, or it could be a car dealership or whatever, but everybody had matching jerseys with their name on it, and they all wore khaki pants, and they had those little thin black belts on there. They had their shirts tucked in, and all the guys had their hair slicked back. And most of them were like World War II veterans. So you had these guys in there that had that 1950s look to them. Just really, they were put together very well. It's like shaved, nobody had beards. Maybe a couple guys did, but they looked like they had really put some effort into getting ready to go bowling. And it was really cool to see that. And they would be standing back there, and I'd be keeping score, and I could hear them talking behind me. They'd all be standing up, nobody'd be sitting down. And they'd all be, they'd have a couple beers, and you could hear them talking about just man stuff, like things that happened in the war, things that's happening at work. These real, they're just man type conversations. And I remember the atmosphere with that. And then, let me fast forward to last week. I went to one of the bowling alleys here in Springfield, Missouri last week, and they had a league in there. And it's like I got noticing, it's like everybody's dressed sloppy. Some people got sweatpants on, some people got shorts, nobody's got jerseys, t-shirts, ball hats that are worn on backwards. And they're just like sitting down. And I got thinking about that. It's like, This is pathetic. It's like from me remembering the men's league, the Monday night men's league at 4th Street Bowl back in the mid 60s versus the leagues that we have right now as far as the people there and how they dress and how they carry themselves. This is what I'm talking about, that we don't have real men anymore. And I don't mean that to say that, men today aren't responsible and they, all that type of stuff. It's different. And looking back on the same thing, let me share some other stuff with you. It's like everybody, it's like all the friends that I was, like my dad's friends and all the friends he was around, they were the same way. It's like, it's the way they carried themselves and it's the energy they had about them. And it's just different. I remember seeing, my dad worked for the gas service company in Joplin, Missouri, and he was like a foreman, where they'd have to, tear up gas lines and install gas lines. And he drove a truck that had a big, like a backhoe on it. And I remember, seeing him in town, I'd get all excited because he'd be driving the truck and I'd pull up there and he had his gas company uniform and, he'd have his arm outside of the truck, with the window down and, muscled up, tanned arm. And it's like, that's what a real man looks like. I just remember that as a kid, seeing that. And then the interactions that he had with his friends, and it's like the fishing trips we go to. It's like they didn't slop through life. That's the best way I can describe it. It's like men back then, that's sort of that World War II, Korean War area men that I'm talking about, they did not slop through life. It's like they did it right. And even as they got older, I remember, probably about 15 years ago, there was this friend of mine that, a friend of my dad's lived about a mile away from our house. And he had like a little mower repair shop at his house and in his garage. So what they would do is like every day about noon, all the guys, all the old dudes would gather over there in the garage, and he'd have the door down in the garage, and he'd have, 7 or 8 chairs in there, and they'd be sitting around there. And these were the same guys I'm talking about that bowled back in the 60s. And I remember walking in there and just hearing them having these man type conversations. They're talking about women and talking about the news and talking about, everything out there. But it's like, it's hard to explain. It was just different. And it's like back then, people actually talked to each other. And that's one of the things that we lack right now in our world is people don't talk, people don't visit. I remember, people were so much more social back then in terms of interacting socially. And they didn't have now where they've got social media and they got 6 billion different TV channels and there's so many different things to distract you with. And it's just gotten too complicated. I mean, I remember, like I said, back in the 60s when Dad would take me fishing down at Table Rock or Grand Lake, we'd get up early in the morning, like 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning, and we'd go, there was a little mom and pop restaurant on the way to Grand Lake that served breakfast. And we'd stop in there at 5:30 in the morning and have like a real breakfast, like a real traditional breakfast at 5:30 in the morning. And now people swing through Hardee's or McDonald's and get an Egg McMuffin on the way to the lake, something like that. It was like, it's just a different environment. And here's the thing about it that I can tell you for sure. People now are not as happy as people were back then. Because I can remember being around all my mom and dad's friends, because they were very social. They had always had people around. We had people over to our house every weekend, or my parents were, we'd go over to other people's. People talked and they were social and they interacted. They played cards together. They just sat down in the living room and talked, or they sat out on the front porch and talked. We don't have that anymore. It's like the interaction that we have as people has been replaced by all of this crap we have now. Back then, you had 3 TV channels, you had 3 local stations, no cell phone, no social media, anything like that, and people actually spend time with each other. And now it's like, if you look at the overall happiness, it's like people are probably more unhappy right now in this day and age in 2026 than they probably ever been, simply because they're disconnected from those relationships and they're disconnected from that human interaction with all the other thing that has come in there to replace it. And when you're talking about quality of life, this is one of the reasons I really rail against technology in my fishing, is that there is a direct correlation to the more technologically advanced the society gets and the more advanced it gets in terms of growing and what people consider, inevitable growth in a country, the less happy the people are. People in the United States of America right now are some of the least happy people in the world, but simply because of the fact of how complicated of a society we live in. Some of the people that are the happiest peoples in the world are the poorest countries, the people that, on paper don't make any money or they don't have any modern conveniences. But when you talk about in terms of happiness, people are happier in those simple countries that don't have the money. And I don't understand how we've gotten into we've gotten sucked into this whole thing about getting more, making more money, getting bigger, having more things, being more technologically advanced is a good thing, because it's not. Because ultimately, it's like there's really only a couple things that matter in life. It's being able to love somebody, being able to receive love from somebody, and being happy. It's like nothing. What else matters when you're talking about that? Yeah, you can have some stuff like, gratification and things that you do, and satisfaction in that. But ultimately, that human interaction is what brings a lot of happiness to people, and we don't have that anymore. We're losing that rapidly, and I don't see it stopping, because one of the most disgusting, frustrating things that ever pissed me off more than anything in my life is when I went to that Zoning and Planning Commission. I talked to the Springfield, Missouri Zoning and Planning Commission, when there was this developer that was trying to have something rezoned over in my part of the country. They wanted to rezone it commercially, and the residents showed up in mass, and they were revolting against it because they didn't want this commercial development in our agricultural, residential type area. Not many houses, but it's zoned agricultural. And I saw the behavior of the Zoning and Planning Commission in terms of the only thing that mattered to them was growth. Get bigger, 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 more tax revenue, get bigger, bigger. To hell with the environment, to hell with the aesthetics of the area. We just want more and more and more. And they even said that. They were all saying they were pro-growth. And I just thought about that a second, and I basically want to say, you guys are just effed up. It's like you do not understand the destructive mentality that you're having with this viewpoint. And it goes over into other areas of our life that we're talking about. When you're talking about in terms of happiness and things that are really important. We are in a very weird place in this country right now. Probably the weirdest it's ever been. It's like, and there's a lot of different reasons for it. I mean, you got people in positions of power that don't belong there. One thing, you got this influence of technology and growth and advancement, this mindset of grow, 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 get bigger, bigger, and bigger, at the expense of everything else, at the expense of everything that I'm talking about that I experienced in the 1960s. Everything that I talked about in the 1960s, the simpler the better. It's like the simple things in life. You didn't need that. You didn't need all the stuff that we have right now to be happy. And it's like, what are we doing? It's like, why are we on this continual rat race to grow, 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 get bigger, 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 and get less happy all the time in the process? Technology is not making us happier. A bigger tax break's not making us happier. It's like having more things is not making us happier. Having 6,000 channels to flip on your TV is not making you happier. I can tell you that. I've seen it firsthand, the evolution of this. I've seen how people interacted 50 and 60 years ago versus the way they do right now. And it's not just myself. I've had this conversation with a lot of other people that can relate to that. And if a lot of you guys can understand exactly what I'm talking about. A lot of you dudes out there watching the channel, if you're in your 70s or 80s, you guys know what I'm talking about. I'm preaching to the choir with that. So anyway, it's just another one of those things when you're talking about, whole topic of this is men being men. It's like they were just better back then. I got to admit it. It's like the generation of my dad's and the World War II generation were just better men than people are right now. And I'm not saying they were perfect by any means at all, but they did not slop through life. They had some, I don't know what, it's hard to explain. Let me give you a prime example. It's like my mom and dad were married for 60 years, childhood sweethearts. Only people they were ever together was the two of them. And when my mom passed away, it's been close to 10 years ago now. My dad lived about 5 years after that before he passed away. But every day, he would get up, make the bed, living by himself, 85 years old, make the bed, get dressed, make sure he had nice, good clothes on, or just, clean clothes on there, and went about the whole process as far as getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and reading the paper and listening to the farm report on the radio and watching the weather on the TV, taking care of business, because that's what men did back then. And I don't know, it's hard to explain exactly what I'm talking about here, but I think a lot of you guys get the drift with that. I just think that a lot of times it would be better if we could put the gears in reverse and go back in time instead of going forward in time, because it has not helped us out any at all.